Was an expert in the Hebrew language, and he wrote his Sefer incredibly meduyak. So really, you could spend a lot of time reading all the words and getting them exactly what they mean, and that's a very good thing to do, but I don't want to do that right now, because I think the first point we should do is get that general idea, the message that he's giving over, which is relevant to life, and then after we have that clarity, then if you want to delve on your own more into the exact understanding of each word, then it's always a really good way to do things. Get the whole skira klalit, the whole complete picture, and then afterwards, after you have the picture, to get more of the details. So my point is that we should learn something that should be practical, you should get out of life-changing. So I don't want to spend too much time on the words, but I think if we don't read it inside, then we don't have any accuracy. So I want to read it a little quickly, and then you'll follow along. You can follow in the English or the Hebrew, it doesn't make a difference. And then we'll go through, we'll explain, we'll talk about the ideas. And the best thing would be if it's a conversation, and we can share ideas and see what we can get out of this. So he starts off in the Hakdama, which is Yisron Yediyas Hadvarim Al Matkonat Chalkeihem Kefi Machlokosam V'Sud Yachaseihem, that the value of knowing things according to their organization and how they are organized based on chalukah, which means order of things, that this one comes first, this one comes second, this comes third, and how they relate to each other. We'll talk about that in grave detail, what that means later. The value of knowing that more than knowing things without havchana, without making these distinctions, is like the Yisrenu Iyas Hagana Mahudam Arigosav, Umyupa Misilosav, it's like seeing a beautiful garden organized beautifully with all of its different plants in different areas, as opposed to seeing a yard which is completely just messed up with weeds and just completely disorganized. These two things, one of it is incredible enjoyment, and one of it is annoying. Right? That's the difference between when you learn Chokhmah. If you learn Chokhmah the way he's going to tell you how to do it, then you have a beautiful garden and it's enjoyable. Because if you learn Chokhmah with just pieces of information and you don't organize them in the proper way, then it's just annoying. And he explains, Ki amnam tzira chalakim rabim, asher lo noda kishram madrigotam amiti v'inyan hakol mukav behem, that if you have a lot of pieces of information and you don't know how they connect to each other, etzel hasechal mishtokek ladat eino ela masak veida v'lo chemda. If a person has a seichel that wants to know, and then what it basically is just weight, just heavy weight on their shoulders, that there's no pleasure in the end of it, right? That sheyigabo v'yamal v'nila v'oyeh v'enachat. You work harder and harder and harder, you get nowhere, and you have no nachas, right? So this is a very important concept he's going to say now. Kihine kol echad mehem sheyagieh tziyur etzlo lo yeniach miharabo atshuka lavo tachlito v'zeh lo yaleh b'yado kivan shenidar mimeno tashlum inyano. This is a very important thing that maybe we're aware of the frustration, but it's actually a koach hanefesh in a person. We know that a person has desire. I mean, all kinds of desires people have. But one of the desires people have is the seichel has desire. And desire is to understand. If we see something perplexing or missing information, there's actually an inherent desire that people have. Naturally, it's like, why? Every kid has this. Why? What happens a lot in life is we get the answer is kacha, just the way it is, and we learn not to ask questions. And we learn to not have desire to know things on their own. Like, okay, yeah, this is the way it is. Or even though it makes no sense, we do it anyway, right? Which is classic, right? So that's a horrible, horrible way of living. And it's actually terribly painful for a seichel to have that. And if you have a level of pain in your life, it might be from having unanswered questions, knowing half-truths, pieces of information that don't work together, and you don't know how they work in the whole grand picture. So what he's coming to explain is that in order to be not frustrated and actually enjoy seichel, the chipus of understanding things can be the most incredible thing there is in the world. In fact, olam haba in a real way is hasaga of Hashem, which is just a seichel experience, which is an experience of understanding. So that is the biggest tanug there is in the world, and that's available. But it's available only if we use the klali of Chokhmah, right? Those klalim of Chokhmah, and what he's going to explain in grave detail, what are the klalim of Chokhmah, how we can, if we organize information one way, then we are frustrated, and we're looking at a a yard which is just annoying and disgusting and frustrating, or we can now look at a beautiful organized garden, which is just gives incredible tanuk. So the main thing I think I would like to pull out from this thing is that there's a chipus, there's a natural desire to learn, to know things, and it's incumbent to us the same way every part of life. There's a certain, let's say you want to get a job, right? So you have to be trained in the job. And if you come in and your clothes are all messed up and you don't know how to do the work properly, and you do let's say you're a kavlad, you build one of these pargolas and you screw the thing in this lopsided, and you don't know how the right screws, and you're just not prepared, it's going to come out bad, right? So there's rules of life, there's rules of chukim that Hashem put into the world that if you follow them it works, and if it doesn't, it's really frustrating. And you can't blame anybody but the fact that you just didn't do it the proper way, right? So in Chachma there's no difference. Chachma is also those rules, and the rules of Chachma, he has an entire sefer of just the rules of Chachma, which you have to be very analytical to actually be able to read. But even if we're not going to be so analytical, basic klalim of understanding things we have to have, or else we're going to get lost and have frustration. And you'll be very surprised if you get yourself organized in your brain and you realize there's a certain piece of information which you found annoying. You'll realize the reason you found them annoying is because it's only a part of something else, and you didn't get the whole picture. So that's what he's coming to explain over here. Okay, he says, "Shaychelek gadol me'adavar," a huge portion of the thing itself, hu yachasav im mityachasim lo. This is an incredibly deep thing that you can have. I once had a teacher who told me that he was able to have a vikuach with a philosopher in German philosophy, and he, in his own tchum of philosophy, he actually won the vikuach because he learned Chumash Rashi. And one of the main things that we do a lot in learning is we say, well, it's true until here, right? Like any Jew knows which one is like this, like this. Well, it's both, right? So it's these concepts of being able to know where things end. A lot of science does this mistake. They come to some truth and they say, wow, we discovered America. This is a truth. Like, you're right. It just only explains a million of the Bria, and now let's see the whole Bria. It's part of something bigger. So the truth of the value of a piece of information is only going to be emes if you understand how it relates to the other pieces of information in the world. Okay, that's the huge piece of information he's giving us over here. And then v'nimtzet shukato todato, b'li sevatai, his desire to learn will actually make him crazy, and chemdaso ma'achivato ve'ein menucha, and his desire to know will actually give him pain, and he won't have menucha. Lo ken hadavar, no yodei hadavar al fnav. If you know it in all of its pieces, shebiyos noso mitgaleh inav ba'alil kemo shehu. If you know the nosei that it's part of, holoch yelech v'haskel asher yifna misham v'yofum lachto yit'aneg v'yishtareh. Then you'll have a lot of pleasure, right? You see, I'm not translating exactly because I don't want to get too stuck in the words. Now, this is a very what's the beginning? He says, "Ki klal ma sheyitzarech la'adam sheyavchin b'noso hu madrekoto ha'amitit shezacharnu." A nosei is a very important concept of what's a nosei. For example, I'll give you a mashal. Let's say a person says, okay, on Shabbos, you can't take the bones out of the meat. You have to take the meat out of the bones. You can't use a kli, right? And you have to do it right before the Suda. A lot of information. So the person looks at you and says, I got it all. I said, well, what are we talking about? Who cares? What's the issue over here, right? Oh, well, I'll explain to you. There's something called malacha. Oh, malacha, okay. And malacha, what's malacha? Well, malacha is creating a creative act. Okay. And now I can discuss with you what's a creative act. Oh, now I know what you're talking about. Now I care, right? So a lot of the times people have information, but tell me, what is this part of? Ma'achpatli. Context. So nosei is a huge thing. What is the context? Give me the context, okay? And within the topic of context, there's a lot of different ways to describe context. So he's going to discuss the different types of context. And that's what he means, madrigaso hamitit. How does it fit in? There's a beginning, middle, and end, right? There's a context, and within that context, there's pratim. There's different things, right? If you don't know there's something called shovet b'melacha on Shabbos, then you don't know there's any difference between how you do the malacha, because who cares, right? So you first have to have the greater scheme of things, and then you can have the pratim. If you look at the entire world, really the world can be divided into two things. The things that you can sense with your five senses, right? And then that's the physical world, and things you can understand with your seichel, with your lev, and that's the muskal, right? Both realms totally exist, and everybody's aware that there's two different realms, right? So a lot of things you can talk about and have experiences that are not physical. You can't touch them, you can't feel them, you can't have one of your five senses, but you can experience them. What's a vibe, right? Always talking about vibes. So a vibe is not, you can't touch with your five senses, but everybody knows what's going on. Totally different thing, right? That's called a muskal. It's one of a version of muskal. Or ideas. Right? People have a nationalism. What's nationalism? Can you touch it? No, but people die for it, right? So, shehen klal kol ma sheyitztar tziyur b'sichleinu. These are the two realms of things we can think about in our brain. Nimsa she'ein kulam min echad u'madrega achat. You'll find that not all of them are the same type of thing, and they're not in the same organized sense. One's below the other, one's on top of the other. Not in the same level. They're ela minim shonim madrikot mitchalfot. Ukefi hitchalep minam hitchalfu mishpateim chukim. If you change the min you're talking about, then they have different chukim, right? The animal kingdom has different chukim than people, and the vegetable, the plant kingdom has different chukim than, let's say, stones and rocks. Okay, these ones different mean different rules. The first thing we have to know, what's the min we're talking about? Okay, now instead of talking about abstractly, he's now going to give us very clear examples of what are the differences of information that we need to check out to understand what's the nosei, what's the part of the nosei. So let's see what he says. Onan Rosh Madrigot minim shmona. Uhu zehem mashu roig b'chein benosei. L'akir me'ez memhu. V'hein hakol v'achelek. Right. The first thing we need to know is this kol or is this chelik? Let's think about that for a second. I have a finger. Finger's an amazing thing, but it's very far from the entire composition of a human being. If I just look at the finger, I absolutely don't understand anything about a human being. If I know that a finger is part of a human being, then I can understand it in its proper ideas, that the human being is a whole thing, and the way he does actions is through his fingers. Right? But I can't avoid talking about the fact that a finger is part of something greater, right? Or let's say, we can think about other concepts. Like, let's say, I'll give you another one. Just, Ein ben David ba ad sheyichle aputa min hakis. That Mashiach doesn't come until there's no more money. Okay, what's Mashiach about? People being poor. That makes sense, right? Sure. That's because we're talking about one tiny thing, which is a tiny part of a huge scheme of things. And if you start trying to understand the idea of Mashiach from this one tiny prat, you're going to have total sheker. That doesn't mean it's not true. It's totally true, but you only understood a tiny part of the whole thing, and you decided to understand the entire concept with this something called, which is only not even, it's just a chelik. Or other examples like that. He says klal uprat. Now klal uprat is an amazing, amazing thing, which he's going to talk about a little bit more in the Hemshech, but klal uprat is a way, if you ever talk to a chacham and you ask him questions, you can tell the difference between people who know pratim and people who know klalim. People who know pratim are like computers. They can spit back to information, right? People who know klal may never have ever heard the question you asked, and they'll give you an amazing answer. Why? Because they understand the general rule, which is encompassing. I'll give you a perfect example of that. Marriage, right? Marriage could be a very complicated thing. A lot of issues that come with marriage. Every couple is different, every people is different, every situation is different. There's all kinds of variables that can come in, right? So if a person understands what's the klal of marriage, that the purpose of marriage is what's called yichud, which is the two people melding into one being and living in synergy together, then that adds a lot of depth and understanding that when you can approach every single question and say, hey, I know what to do in this situation because does it work with the klal? Is this making yichud or is it not making yichud? And then all the details become irrelevant because it's very simple. Does it do this or not do this? Or within these new details, okay, I have a new situation. How do I work these details to get to that klal? But if you don't have the klal in your hands, then you're totally lost. Right? So it's in Yiddishkeit in general, any concept you're going to learn, any halacha concept, any philosophical concept, any hashkafa concept, whatever it is, it's always important to use the pratim, not on their own, to get to some sort of klal. And the klal, what you're trying to get to, he'll explain it more, is something you can hold in your hand that holds every single prat. There's nothing about the prat that's not discussed in the klal. Kol masha, we say in David, right? Before we Bryce of Yishmael. Kol masha is in the klal, is in the kol masha who is in the klal is in the prat. You won't find anything in the prat that doesn't is discussed. It may be discussed in a milli sentence. It doesn't make a difference. It's included in this general concept, and then you have that concept in your hands. You have the whole thing, right? So you always have to wonder if you're learning something. Am I talking about a prat? Am I talking about a klal? If it's a prat, then it's not going to be. I can't use it in any situation. If it's a klal, I can use it everywhere. Okay, so that's super important to figure out what the information you're getting is a klal or a prat. Another thing very important to understand is the siba misovev, right? In emotional work, this is super important. I'll give you a perfect example. A person's angry, right? So you could look at anger as a thing on its own, or you look at anger and realize, wait a minute, what's the cause of the anger? Now, why should I discuss the thing that came out of the thing that came out of the cause, which is anger? Because you never work on something which is a misovev, or something comes out of something else. You always go back to the core, the thing that caused it. So it's very, very important, imperative in anything you do in the world, no matter what, is that, okay, what is the problem? What is the source of this thing? And what came out of the source of this thing? What's the siba? What's the misovev? Right? So everything, piece of information you look at, is this a siba, this caused other things, or is this caused by things? A certain could be a misovev and a siba, right? There's a domino effect. This is the first domino, the second domino. The second domino is the siba, the third domino. But the real siba, the siba mikorit, is the first domino. So you have to know always to figure out what's the siba, what's the misovev, or is it both, right? But that's an imperative information, piece of information. And so you have that until you know if this is the siba or misovev, you're missing what it is, right? Clear? Okay. Hanosei mitchaber. The word nosei mitchaber is what's the topic at hand, right? We have, like I explained before, about Melecha Shabbos, right? Shabbos is about. It's not even true to say Shabbos by not doing Melecha. That's also, what's that part of? Why not? What's the point of not doing Melecha? Right? If a person doesn't understand and have a deep connection to the fact there's something called Shavisa, that they're actually in rest, because the seventh day is something different than the rest of the week, they can have no context to care about why I shouldn't do Melecha. I'm not even talking about the pratim of Melecha, but why not? What's going on? There's something going on in the world, and in order to be in tandem with the universe, not to go against the universe, so then I need to be in Shvisa, and therefore I can't do Melecha. So what's the nosei? The nosei is not Lo Sasa Melecha. The nosei is Shabbos, to be resting. And then within that nosei, I can discuss all kinds of mitchaber to that nosei, which is, okay, there's another nosei, which is mitchaber to the original nosei called Don't Do Melecha, which is a klal of a million pratim. A million pratim, what's called Melecha, right? But they all have to fit into the category. If they're not Melecha, then they're totally mutter, right? But if I don't understand what's the nosei, I'll never feel like I have the seichel. Will always feel like, why am I doing this? What in the world? Why can't I do Melecha? Why not? Right? Which I'm sure everybody has come to this thing like, what mazeh? And every mitzvah. The truth is, the entire topic of mitzvahs and averos is like that. What does that mean? A mitzvah. Who cares? What is that part of? Just, there's a God of the world, he says, do this. Why? What's this? This must be some sort of grand scheme of plan going on over here. This is part of that, or else this is random, right? So everybody is looking for meaning. What are the things they're looking for is, tell me what's the plan over here? What's the nosei? Within that nosei, there's something called mitzvahs, right? Which is exactly what this Derech Hashem is coming to discuss, is not the pratim of Taryag mitzvahs. Almost Taryag mitzvahs is not even mentioned in a lot of most of the sefer, but it's why. Why is this thing called Taryag mitzvahs? What's the nosei of this whole passion? What do you create the world for? What's his goal? And then if there's such a goal, then how does this thing called the mitzvah ever reach that goal? Right? That's the points he's bringing out. So far, is it clear? The ideas we're trying to do? Okay, great. So let's go on a little bit more. The first thing we have to know, imu kol, imu chelik. We have to know if it's the whole entirety of the thing or it's just a part. Imu klal or a prat. Is it a general rule or no, a part of another, an expression of a general rule called a prat. Imu siva or misavev, if it's a cause or an effect. Imu nosei or mitchaber, if it's a topic or it's part of another topic. If it's a prat, right? Its madrega is underneath the klal. There's something which is on top of it called a klal, and then there's an expression of that. The same if it's a part of something, then it's madrega is underneath kol, right? So you have to know according to that. Then you can discuss. Well, if it's a part, then it's only existing when you have the rest of the parts. So they always go together, right? You can't have a lungs without a heart because it could be a dead person, right? So you know that these two things constantly relate to each other. You're never going to talk about it on its own. So that's what yibachen ha'avchanot. Asher kifi tiv'o mitztareches lahashtamat haskaloto v'tzir yano. As soon as you begin to identify what it is, you'll know according to its teva that you need to understand something else. Like a lot of times when I'm learning a Gemara, and I bump into something I realize this is not something I can spend any time on, because I can tell you right now this is part of something else. So if I don't get that, it's worthless. There's no point in even spending 2 more seconds on this thing, so I go somewhere else, right? And that you begin to pick up. Your lay picks up, even if you don't identify it right away, you begin to understand. Wait a minute, this is not the whole picture. Something's not. I can't even figure out yet what it is, because I know the whole picture because I'm an Aleph base over here, but I know there's a greater picture over here. So let's get moving. Okay. So im cheleku, if you identify it as a chelik, yivakesh ladat hakol shu chelik imenu. Your natural desire of your seichel will automatically say, "Oh, really? So what's the greater? What's the whole thing that it's a part of?" Imhu prat yachkol klalo. If it's a prat of something, you'll try to understand what's the klal. Imhu siba yachkol misovev. If you know that it's causing something else, so what did it cause? Let's go see. Imhu sovev et sibato. Why is this here? We know this thing here. Why? Imhu mitchaber yivakesh al nosei. If it's part of a grand topic of things, you'll find out what's nosei. V'yachkor k'moken ladat eize min hamitchabrim elav. You have to know which it is. Im kodem. If this is the first thing, and this is something which came afterwards, or it's not first and second, but it comes along with, right? For example, you can take a drug, and you can have the drug will cause something, it'll have side effects. That's called a mitlaveh. That wasn't exactly the thing that we're doing, but there are things that come up with this drug that happens. It's called side effects, right? Im watzmi umikri. If it has to be this way, right? Eish is always going to be hot, always, okay? But it's enough to make a huge fire, right? The fact that it made a huge fire is mikri. It could be, but it depends on the situation. Im bekoach and before. If this is a person that's potential, right? He's a really smart guy. Okay, he's really capable. He's a really great musician. That's wonderful. But that's only bekoach. If he doesn't have a band, there's no place to express his musical talent. It's only koach. It's not before. So you have to understand if this concept, if this thing is koach or poach. Kulam avchanot lo yishlam tziro inyano zulatam. You won't understand the picture of its inyan without it. Velakol yitbonen al teva inyan. And then afterwards you should figure out imhu muchlat or mugbal. If it has to be this way, or if it has a gvul. It's this way until this happens, and then it's not this way anymore, right? Or it's always like this. Ki ulam kol inyan amiti yashuv kozev. Anything that's true will always return to be false. If you relate it to a part where it doesn't relate to. Or you take it out of its gvul. If you take a concept and you make it the entire thing, when it's really only a part of the thing, right? Well, one of the examples of this is like tzionut. Right? Tzionut is a very, very important idea. But what happened, the people who started tzionut, they took it out of proportion and replaced Yiddishkeit. So that's like, oh, 1 second. You took a concept which was amazing, at a very, very important part of Dveikus B'Hashem, and then you lost Dveikus B'Hashem. Or maybe a better example, Limud Torah, right? Limud Torah can be an incredible way of connecting to Hashem, but it could also just be a thing for on its own. We're sitting and learning. Okay, what are you doing with that? Nothing. We're sitting and learning. Aha. Why? Because it's a mitzvah to sit and learn. Right, but that mitzvah means it's a part of connecting to Hashem. So where's Hashem in this? You took it out of its gvul, and now it's sheker. Now the same thing, which was an amazing thing, actually is not productive, because it doesn't bring you to the goal of the world. Right? So maybe an incredible intellectual experience, and you'll have a lot of fun doing it. And we could even give you a V on the mitzvah chart, but it gave you nothing to the point of what you're trying to get to, which is why you can have people who are learning Torah, and you can tell these people are not Dvukim Hashem. They're just not. Their midos are terrible, and it doesn't make them bring the lidei maisa. They don't live according to the things they learned because they're just doing this thing, shackling and learning, right? They miss the goal. So anything, the most true concept, if you take it out of its gvul, becomes complete sheker. Okay? So if we want to understand things and the seichel's looking and desiring, I want to make this world make sense, the first question you have to ask is these questions. How does it fit into the whole picture? And he's giving us kalim to figure out how to define the pieces of the puzzle. Okay? If we can tell if it's part of a greater thing, if it's a prat, if it's a klal, if it's caused by something else. These are all questions that we get used to asking ourselves. We get much deeper understanding of concepts. And it doesn't make a difference what concept we're learning at that point. We can always attack it and get clearer, take it apart, and get much more clarity because we have these kloli chochma which allow us to define things. So if next time you open up some kind of concept, it's fun to look at, to figure out how does this fit in. Is it a kol? Is it a chelik? Is it a klal prat? Is it a nosei mitchaber? And you become much richer in your understanding of things just because you ask yourself these questions. Okay? Now this is a super huge concept he's going to tell us over here about Torah in general. The amount of pratim that are in the world is so large, it's impossible for achil. There is no human being who can get all the pratim. It doesn't exist. Right? You can ask any scientist, any doctor, they all know that there's no way to get the entire picture. Right? You can have a doctor who is good in the feet and good in the heart and good in the head. There's a reason for that, because they're trying to do pratim, and there's the million amount of pratim is just too much. Right? What a person should try to figure their life out is to figure out the klalim of things. And then when they get to certain situations where they have to deal with pratim, they use the klal. So, mashal and halacha is also a very important thing. It's more important to go through a topic and get the klalim out than it is to answer all these different shilas. The way halacha is written is not like that. Halacha is all written for a million pratim, but you can't learn all of Shulchan Aruch. It's too big, right? So what your goal would be is to figure out the ruach hadvarim, and really in a deep way, which is discussed in the Sefer also, the klal of everything is not the Maisa. Because Hashem doesn't want us to do things, He wants us to be things. Right? He wants us to become like Him. The mitzvahs are a way of, if we do these Maisim, we become those Maisim, and we become the midos behind those Maisim. So if you really want to understand the klal hadvarim, it's never only going to be in osim kacha, lo osim kacha. We do this, we don't do this, ever. Because that's only a part of something else. That's a prat. That's a chelik of something bigger, right? What we have to get the klal of it is, which is the klal, as you're going to explain very well, is coming to mitakin your midos. So if you want to understand, for example, you're in Hilchas Tefillah, so the first thing you have to understand is what is the midos of a person who's standing in front of Hashem. And then you could understand that there's different times, the different midos that are appropriate. How do you relate to somebody in different times of your conversation? While you're greeting someone at the door is different than when you're sitting down and having a conversation. Different types of conversations. There's an intimate conversation, there's a less intimate kind of conversation. So when you get the klal of those midos, Pitoms you begin to understand the pratim of why halacha is like this, and you can figure it out yourself. You don't have to have, this sefer said you can't. Here you stand up and here you sit down. Here you can't talk and here you can't talk. Here you can talk like this and talk like this. Like, it's sort of obvious. It depends on how intimate. And in the bedroom, a husband or wife, they don't have a conversation with anybody else. Shmoneh Esrei, you don't talk to anybody, right? But you're having a casual conversation and your son comes over and he has something really important. You interrupt because it's okay. We're just talking about how to run the kitchen, right? It's different. It's a different thing, right? So that's a very important conversation, and Pesukei de Zimra is amazing, but he needs something over here, right? There's different klolim. And it's obvious if you get the potential, when you get the concept behind these things, the klolim, then you can know answers to yourself. There's a famous story of Rav Zusha that, I don't think it's understood properly, but once there was there was a question and Rav Zusha said an answer. And then they brought the question to Vilna Gaon, and he said, it's a Mefurish Yerushalmi. And so he said, how did Rav Zusha know that? So they went back to Rav Zusha and asked him. He said, I know from the same place Yerushalmi knows it from. Right? You don't have to have someone tell you the information. If you get the concept behind the whole world, and obviously, Boker Tov, that's how they got to the same conclusion that I did. right? So that's what we're trying to get to, right? We're not trying to kabetz information and say, I learned through all of these things. I know I can answer all the trivia questions there are in the world because I looked up the answer and I know the answer. That's not even the goal. It's not even the goal. It's more than that. If you think about memory, there's different types of memory. There's certain people who have memory like a computer. There's a place where Ramchal calls that, he calls that chamor noises farim. It's like a chamor that he has a lot of books on his back, right? But let's start again. Ki kol klal b'tivo kolel pratim harbei. Any klal has in it a lot of pratim. U'shiyasig klal echad. If you know the klal, nimtza masig me'elav mispar rav min pratim. If you know the klal, you already know the pratim, even if you never touched them, never learned them. V'yaf hapi shlo hivchim b'madayin, v'lo hikir hayotam pratei klalahu. You didn't even know this is the prat of this klal. It makes no difference. Ki hine kishiyavo kol echad mehem liyado, lo yaniach milakir oto. You'll right away recognize it. You know, oh yeah, this is part of this klal. This klal says this is going to happen, and look, here is an expression of it happening. All right? Kevan shekvar yadua etzlo ha'inyan klali. So אי אפשר להם היות בלתו. וכן אמרו זיכרונו לברכה, לעולם יהיו דברי תורה בידיך כללים ולא פרטים. Right? A person should always learn the klalim of things, and then the pratim become obvious to him. Right? You can a lot of psychology works like this. Like you learn clinical psychology, you learn child psychology. So a child needs this in this he has this developmental stage. He needs to go through this. It doesn't develop. You're going to have this type of expression. Then you can have a kid doing stuff, certain crazy actions. You're like, oh yeah, of course, because he didn't develop this, right? And you can pinpoint it and deal with that problem. But you never saw this expression of this crazy behavior before. Who cares? I know that he didn't develop this, and there's craziness that comes out like this, and this is an expression of that craziness, and now I can deal with the problem, right? Anything in the world works like this. Any chachma works like this. Okay? Achma sheyitztarech v'yediyat haklalim. This is a super important point. Hu hadat otam bechol gvuleihem ubechinoteim. If you want to know a klal, you have to be super meduyak. Because it's like in the brain. If you move a millimeter or something in the brain and do a surgery in the brain and something goes off there, the totzot from that are huge in the whole body, right? A klal is just like that. If you don't get the klal meduyak and you have one little thing off in your klal, you're going to have a million pratim look different, right? So that's why it's super important when you're learning a klal to be meduyak, to really get its all gvulot, and that's what he says. You still learn certain things about the klal, or let's say someone's teaching you about the klal, and it doesn't seem important. Who cares about this piece of information? I'll ignore this part, right? You'll see that there's no such thing. A klal, by definition, has in it, it's like an eitz that has a million peirot on it. And if you leave one part of the tree, the trunk out, half the tree doesn't exist anymore. So every time you learn a klal and a sefer written like this, not every sefer, by the way, is written so methodically. There are many, especially Chassidish Sfarim, they often just tell you an idea, and it's a prat, and you have no idea where it fits into, right? But his Sfarim are all klal. So when he says something to you, and he says a sentence, and 3/4 quarters of the sentence makes sense, the other quarter, don't know why he said that. Leave it out. Bad idea. Because you're going to see that it has huge ramifications, this little thing that actually makes the klal totally different, and then everything changes.
So it seems that if a person wants to make a decision about pratim, he can only, and that he doesn't know about, like he hasn't learned about these pratim, he can only trust himself to make the right decision if he had fully learned the klal, like you're saying, like if he's really gotten it done.
You're making it very drastic because you're saying that I can't make any decisions. Unfortunately, you're going to spend your entire life learning the klalim of life, right? So you're going to say, I haven't worked the klal out yet, so I can't make any decisions. You don't have that liberty because you got to live, right? But for sure, if you want to make a decision, the thing you should do is understand the klal of that topic before you make that decision, as much as possible according to the amount of pratim that you discovered in your life and the amount of das that you have on understanding the klal. When you get older, you'll see last year's klal was either a prat or wrong or whatever, and then you'll make another decision, right? But for sure, that's definitely a way to make decisions. Always discuss the klal. And that's when you get eitz from somebody, what you're looking for this person is never to tell you what to do, because they're not you, and they don't know your life, and then there's no way for them to know your life, and that's a prat. What you're going to get eitz on is what's the klal. What's the idea that is always true? And then I'll figure out myself, how does it apply in my personal situation. Okay, so אפילו דברים שנראים בתחילה נעדרי התולדה, צריך שתשמע אותם ותשים להם ליבך. You have to pay attention to all of them. ולא תהיה בז להם כמו שאומר זיכרונו לברכה. You should never, baz means you shouldn't מזלזל on them. You shouldn't put them down. כי אין לך דבר קטן או גדול בכלל שאין לו מקום תולדה בפרטים. That won't have an effect on the pratim. ומה שלא יוסיף ולא יגרע בקצת הפרטים, even if you don't see its expression in some pratim, הנה יוליד תולדה רבה בזולתם. It'll be a huge impact in other pratim. וביוס הכלל לכולם, צריך שיהיה בו מה שיספיק לכולם. If it's a cloud that exists in every situation, right, then you have to get all of its truth that it'll have impact on things that you haven't gotten in touch with yet. Right? So let's say you're learning a topic about life and you want to make a decision about life or marriage or chinuch or where to live and all these other things. So you can think about, okay, right now all I care about is, you're a single guy, and all you care about in Batayan is it a nice place for a single guy to live? But you're not going to stay single for the rest of your life. So is it a nice place to live if I get married? Is it a nice place to see is it a nice place to live for have children? That's also part of the klal, right? So these questions you have to ask yourself. Never limit yourself to what's sitting in front of you, the pratim, because the klal is something which affects your entire life. So always look as global as you possibly can and see if that's what you're holding. Maybe you can say this klal is not relevant to me now, but always, as much as you possibly can, get into the point. Okay, the klal. Al kein tzarich shtidakte beze meod. You have a lot of diktuk. V'titponen anyanam v'yachasem v'kishreim b'diktuk gadol. You have to understand themselves and how they relate to other things and how they connect, like we spoke about before. V'tibachani yafa yafa hemshechasam v'hishtalosam. You have to understand that they're in hemshech. What's the beginning? What's the middle? What's the end? And how do they break down? Right. This is the cloud. It comes into this prat. This prat makes this prat. This is part of something greater. This is part of this nosei. Az nimshachim ech nimshachim ha'inyan me'inyan min harosh ve'ad hasof va'az tatzliach va'az taskir. This is the way to have atzlacha and understanding of things. Now I was going to explain to you. This is what he wrote the sefer for. Hinei al pi advarim ha'elu chibati lecha korei na'im chibur katan zeh. I wrote a small chibur. V'kivanti bo la'atzia lefanecha klalei ha'emunah va'avoda al-buriyam. I'm talking about klalim in this sefer. What's emunah and what's klalei avoda? Right? You're not going to see in the sefer what you're going to see in sefer mitzvahs of the Rambam. Kimat, no details of any mitzvah is going to be in the sefer. Kimat. But it's what's behind all of these things. And then when you have this, then it gives you tochen understanding of Taryag mitzvahs, which isn't discussed in the sefer. V'ofen shtuchal la'amor aleim al nachon v'yitztaru b'sichlecha tziur maspik. And you'll see a picture. Mutzal mina yirvu v'buvucha. You'll be saved from being mixed up and confusion. V'tir'eh shorsheim v'anfeim madrigotam v'yu ha'efshari. And you're going to see their roots and their branches in the order. This is a root, this is a branch, this is a trunk, this is a branch, this is a tree. Okay? Shi'yashu al libcha v'tikneh otam b'sichlecha v'mivuchar shebepfanim. And they'll mityashev on your heart, and you'll own them in your mind in the best way you can. Then you can use these klolim and find pirushim in the rest of Torah easily. And this will give you the ability to understand Sisrei Torah, right? The amount of bracha that Hashem gives you because you have the klolim. There are a lot of things, even in deep svarim, that you learn that if you learn this sefer, it makes you. You're a seichel on the Sudar, you get the points, and you can understand very deep things because he gave you the basis. Without his basis, you'd be totally confused. Right? I don't know if you know who the Ramchal was. The Ramchal was, at a young man, was given a gilui from Shamayim, a malach from Shamayim, a magid, and the Arizal, who lived, 100, 200 years before him, Rav Chaim Vital wrote his all the Kisvei Ari was written in a code, in what's called a mashal, right? All these musagim ruchanim that, if you read them, it looks like Chinese because you don't know what they mean. You just know that there's a certain order, and a certain order of midos, and this connects to this, and this connects to this, and this, but you don't know what you're talking about. The Ramchal was given a malach from Shamayim, that he was given the tafkid to take the mashal of the Arizal into a nimshal, to make it, to bring it down to where the concepts that we live with all day long, and to take those high concepts and make them palatable and understood by even the layman. Right? That was his tafkid in life. So what he wrote, his svarim, many svarim he wrote are not in the lashon of Kabbalah, but they are totally a sefer of Nista, because he's just using intellectual ways, the klalim of Chachma, to discuss things that have to do with our world, that what they really are expressions of spiritual concept that the Arizal brought down into the world. Okay? So what you're talking about over here is actually the beginning of ability to understand all of Sisrei Torah, and this is a great sefer, which is to open it up, because he's talking about all the basics and explaining to them how they work with each other. So you can have a person who's, let's say, a Baki and Nister, but if he doesn't understand how things work to each other, he can be completely confused. And if you have a sefer, a simple sefer, which puts things together for you, and this connect to this connect to this, then you can, then later on when you can introduce these concepts, it all flows in. Okay, so that's why the sefer is super important. Now we're going to just finish off over here. I'm going to make a seder, and I picked very specific words. I decided to give you these concepts, and I picked very specific words to give them over. Now, you have to pay attention to every word I say. If you want to sit on the words, what he's saying, the words will open up to you a proper way of thinking about it because of the words he picked, this word and not this word. Right? Just like you have in Chumash Rashi, where Rashi was written very meduyak, the Ramchal is the same thing. It's every word is specific. The Vilna Gaon said that in Mesilas Yesharim, I think till the word Perek Yud, there's no extra word. It's completely, every word is exactly shakul, the way it has to be. And over there, it's the same type of sefer, which is, even though he's talking through things that look very simplistic, and they are, because everything is pashut, but it's all based on the deepest of things in the world that he just brought down for us to understand in our simple lives. Okay, so this sefer is a tremendous mafteach to understand very deep things, and we'll, like I said, we're not going to go into every word, but it's the proper way to learn it is after you get it is to go and to really sit. Oh yeah, that word means this. This word means this. Okay, that's what it means. And you can get tremendous orot because you go through the words. Don't mevater any type of understanding of the words, exacting words. Maybe you'll miss something. You should pay attention to every word. And it should be held in your seichel. Interesting way of saying it. In your seichel, should be enclosed inside of you. Your seichel, all what I'm teaching you. And then, which is what he's talking about in the beginning of the Hakdama, you'll have menucha. Because then you understand how everything works together. Oh, now I get it. Derech Hashem, again, the topic of klalim. Hashem has certain drachim that he put into the world, and these are the klalim of those drachim. These are things that in a lot of the Sisrei Torah, the Makorim is in the Nevi'im, right? And then they have Ramazim in the Torah. And with them we live our life, and with them he is Mashgiach Aleinu and the rest of the world. First of all, talk about the Mitziyut. Okay? What's in the world? Right? The world is Hashem, then the world was created, there's bad and good, and there's midos and not midos, things like that. The second part of the Sefer, which is Gan Eden, Gehenim, who goes where, why does he go where, what does Hashem do Yisurim in the world. Chelik Shlishi is Nevuah, which Nevuah includes cool things like Kishuf and Ruach HaKodesh and Shadim and all kinds of interesting things, what these things are. Chelik Revi Ba'avoda. Chelik Revi is where he takes all these concepts and he discusses things like what's Shachris, why we davening Mincha, why we have to do different things. But not just kacha, because we daven shachris and mincha, but it has to fit into the whole, what's the point? If we wouldn't have it, what would be different? Right? Matzahs, why are we eating matzahs? So it goes to mamash bekitzer nimratz and gives you a little tochen that you understand it because you understood the klal that he put in the beginning of the sefer. Okay? Ba'ata achi, kol mevakesh Hashem b'derech hazeh elech. Anybody who wants to find Hashem should go in this path. Hashem ye'imcha v'natan lecha inayim lirot v'aznayim lishmoa niflaot mitorato. He gave you eyes and ears to hear and see the niflaim of his Torah. Amen ken yiratzo. So, any questions? And I think before we have any questions, I think the main thing we should focus on as a group, what do you, we just learned something. So we had a lot of information, blah, blah, blah. What do we come out with? What's different? What do I have now, new kelim that I didn't have before, that now I'm going to use in my life differently? That's what I'd like you to mitbonen on and express if you have what to say.
So just for me, I'm just appreciating all this just because of, like, for a while I was looking for something that, like, would give me a little bit more foundation. Basically, like, coming off of, like, a very kind of dry understanding of Rav Yiddishkeit, and then, like, finding Hasidus was, like, super juicy. But then, like, what we're saying, those are very much like pratim. Or, like, there were klalim in there, but, like, it didn't have, like, the kind of foundation that this is offering, which is amazing. Like, I'm realizing this is, like, perfect for, like, what I need now. And then I can, like, learn, like, use the teachings that I learned in Hasidus, but with as klalim as opposed to, like,
Context.
Yeah.
Right. And you know where to apply them, because you can have an incredible concept of Chassidus and you apply it in the wrong place, and it's...
Or limited to only a few places. You know.
Right. And then it can actually cause tremendous nezek.
You could be doing the right thing, but in the wrong way, and therefore it's kind of meaningless. And also just to see the bigger picture of all these small things that make up something way in the end.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
You don't have to say it if you want.
just the idea of like instead of focusing on trying to memorize those little details, remembering the concept that our soul already knows, and then the world's already open to us.
Awesome. Totally incredible.
This
Okay.
is really cool. So, this is cool. They don't, because it's not usually things aren't presented like this, where it's not about, like, some stuff for me was like it felt radical. There was like a few things. One of them was that it's not about the pratim. Once you know the klal, then it isn't the point is the klal. The point isn't the pratim. That is like a bit radical. Not that it's wrong. It's just like contrasting what I originally knew. But it really opens the heart, because suddenly it's instead of like looking at somebody and saying, oh, he's doing these pratim, and therefore that's the right thing, you know, because that's what I know. It's really like, okay, whatever he's doing, is it connecting to the klal? Doesn't matter specifically if it's written in the Torah, you know. It could be
You can
something
have...
relevant nowadays. That
You can learn something from somebody and do exactly the opposite. Because what you understood from him was he's trying to get this klal. And so for his circumstances, that's perfectly matim. But for my circumstances, I do the opposite. And they're both emes.
yeah,
Because we're both part of a greater klal.
that's like Gula Torah right there.
Awesome. We like Gula Tov. We need Gula.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Right.
Yeah.